everybody, Crow here, and I was thinking that I'd like to do a video about the Pinball Arcade. Now, if you don't know what the Pinball Arcade is, it's a DLC-driven pinball simulator for multiple platforms created by Farsight Studios. Now, I say it's DLC-driven, but there could be some retail versions of the game floating out there. I don't know about regions outside the US, but the PlayStation 4 does have a retail version. It does include all the Season 1 tables on disc. Now, I had thought about doing a video about my favorite tables in the Pinball Arcade. However, since new tables are always being released, I decided to do a separate video for each season of tables. And at this point, they had just started doing Season 5. So I'm going to start with Season 1. Also, since each season has a varying number of tables, I decided I would just rank all the tables in each season. Now, I didn't do anything mathematical to rank the tables. I just listed them all out and ordered them by how I felt they should be ranked. And, you know, this is just my list. It's by no means meant to conform to any sort of common consensus. This is all just my opinion at this time. And also, I just want to mention that this is all based on the PS4 version. That's the version of the Pinball Arcade that I'm usually playing the most. I mean, I do have it on my phone. I have it at the computer. But the PlayStation 4 is really the system I play it the most on. So with all that said, let's get started. Alright, at number 22 is GENIE. Now, out of all 22 tables in Season 1, one of them has to be last. And when I was looking at the list of 22 tables, I knew that this one was going to be last. It's not that it's utterly terrible, but it's an early solid-state table from the 70s, and as such, it doesn't have the greatest sound effects, and after a while it can get a bit annoying. I'm not a big fan of the layout of this huge wide-body table either, as there's not much flow to the table. And it feels like a bit of luck is required not to drain your ball on the left side if you go for the A, B, C, D rollovers near that area. Unless there's somebody that really likes these type of tables in general, I would generally avoid it. At number 21, we have Black Hole. This table has actually been simulated by Farsight Studios for a long time, as it was included in the original Pinball Hall of Fame game. And one thing about this table has always been true. It's brutal and unforgiving. You really have to know your stuff to stand any sort of chance of scoring decently. Now, the main feature of this table is the miniature playfield under the main playfield, and that's pretty cool. But if you make it down there and don't open the airlock before you lose your ball down there, you'll also lose your ball when it exits the main playfield. Multi-ball is available on this table, but it takes quite a bit of work to achieve. I used to absolutely hate this table, but now I sometimes enjoy the difficulty this table offers. The space theme is really cool, and some of the sound effects are excellent. However, I just couldn't put it any higher on this list. At number 20 is Harley-Davidson 3rd Edition. Now, to me, this is the worst of the more modern tables on this list. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and this game makes absolutely no attempt to make me care. The table doesn't seem to have much personality, and everything about the table seems cliched. The main soundtrack that plays is even a generic-sounding version of Born to Be Wild. The playfield art is mostly the Harley-Davidson logo, and I suppose that's appropriate, but at the same time it's very bland. The only cool thing I have to say about this table is that the Harley in the center of the table will pop wheelies to collect and shoot out pinballs from multi-ball. I can really only see fans of Harley-Davidson motorcycles really enjoying this table.
There goes that mystery rider again. I can't seem to catch him. Pittsburgh! Hurry up and grab that hat!
Number 19 is Black Knight. Now, I know a lot of people like this table and would put it up higher on the list, but I simply am not a huge fan of this table. The table has a multi-leveled playfield, and with the way it's set up, the ball has a tendency to fly around like crazy, especially when it falls from the upper level to the lower level. The table does feature 2 and 3 ball multi-ball, but with the table layout, the mode is not long-lasting. I suppose it would be chalked up to the challenge of the table, but sometimes it can be frustrating. The Black Knight Speaking is a pretty cool feature for a table from its time, around 1980, but the really cool feature is the Magnet Save, which can be used to activate a magnet to potentially save your ball from draining through an outlane. At number 18 is Elvira and the Party Monsters. Now this is the first of 2 Elvira themed pinball machines. This one is from 1989 and is actually a lot of fun to play. There's plenty of jokes and voice samples from Elvira, plenty of interesting shots to make, and there's a decent challenge to be had on this table. I especially like trying to spell Elvira and like the 3 million point shot. I keep thinking this should be higher on my list, but when I compare it to other tables to come, I think I'd rather play those other tables. This is definitely a good table worth having though, especially if you like Elvira.
Ooh, nice organ.
Number 17 is GORGAR. The layout of GORGAR is pretty simple, but I think it works very well. But if the only thing GORGAR had going for it was the table layout, it would be lower on this list. The sound effects in this machine are fantastic, with deep sounding bass and a pounding heartbeat that gets faster as you progress, and that really immerses you in the action. Also, there's the voice of GORGAR, who will occasionally speak to you, which sounds totally awesome considering this is the very first pinball machine that had a speaking voice. Some people may say that GORGAR is overrated, but I think it's the combination of the sound and art design in a fantasy setting that really draws people in. At number 16 is The Machine, Bride of Pinbot. Now there was a time when Bride of Pinbot was my favorite pinball machine of all time, but the more I played it, the more the flaws of this machine became apparent. The theme and the sound effects are really cool, and the main feature of the Bride of Pinbot transforming into a real woman is really awesome. You first give her speech, then eyes, and then she turns into a human. And the sound and light effects during the metamorphosis are really cool, but there are 2 huge problems with this table. The first is that you only need to concern yourself with one shot, the shuttle ramp shot, which is easily obtained with the right flipper. If the ball's on the left flipper, shoot the center ramp, and it feeds the ball to the right flipper, where you can easily shoot the shuttle ramp shot. The second problem is that there's a billion point shot you have a random chance of getting during the final transformation stage. The only way for someone to compete against that kind of score is to also get the billion point shot. So the scoring winds up de-evolving into seeing who can get the most billion point shots. This turns out not to be a good table for skill or competitive scores.
How do I look? You look good.
At number 15 is Big Shot. Now, some people might call me crazy for putting this old EM table from 1973 this high up on the list, but I really enjoy this table for some reason. Very simply, you are hitting drop targets representing billiard balls on opposite sides of the table. Solids on one side, stripes on the other side. The 8-ball is in the center hole and the center rollover. I like playing this table on occasion to take a break from the bigger and more complicated tables. The goals here are simple, and the challenge of not draining the ball is fun. This is an excellent table to put those table nudging skills to the test. At number 14 is Scared Stiff. This is the second of the Elvira tables, and this one is simply fantastic. Elvira has a multitude of jokes, sarcastic quips, and double entendres that never seem to get old. And the other voice in the game is equally fantastic, shouting things in a spooky voice. The end goal of the game is to get scared stiff. This is accomplished by finishing the 6 Tails of Terror and then maxing out the Stiffometer to activate the Scared Stiff mode, which has one of the best mode intros ever, which first tries to make you believe the game may be broken. I also should mention the spider in the back glass, which is used in the web roulette to activate special features. I would put this table much higher on this list if it wasn't for one problem. It's way too easy. The one game I played to capture footage for this video took 47 minutes to complete, and I activated Scare Stiff multiple times. I haven't played the real table in a very long time, so I don't know if it's actually this easy in real life, but this version in the Pinball Arcade has got to get knocked down several pegs for being such a pushover. At number 13 is Ripley's, believe it or not. Now this table really grew on me over time. I wasn't a huge fan of this table originally, but this being one of the first Pinball Arcade tables, I did play it plenty of times. This table has some of the most difficult wizard mode goals, and I put many hours trying to get them all. During that time, I began to really appreciate this table for the long-term challenge it presents. This table is set up so beginners can do a couple of cool things and get some multi-balls very easily, but the more experienced players will be pulling out their hair trying to reach the Trip to Atlantis and Frog Frenzy. This table doesn't seem like much at first, but there are several layers to it. If you currently don't like this table, I say give it a couple more shots. You might grow to actually like it.
Look out!
At number 12, we have Theater of Magic. Now, in real life, this table is really cool. It's set up with plenty of illusions that manipulate the ball in ways that fool your eyes, much like a magician's stage show. Now, the simulated effect on a screen is lessened a bit here, but it's still there. There's vanishing balls, a hidden cellar, and a mysterious force that can save your ball from draining. Now, there's also many feats of magic to accomplish before performing the grand finale, like sawing things in half, escaping from a straitjacket, and pulling various animals out of your hat. The music and sound design are great, and the 2 game announcers really fit in the theme, and always let you know what you should be shooting for. It's a cool, fast-paced table with plenty of tricks up its sleeve.
8 o'clock! Magnificent!
At number 11 is Tales of the Arabian Nights. Like Theater of Magic, the table effects of Tales of the Arabian Nights are lessened a bit through the table being simulated, but I think it comes out better in the end. The overall atmosphere of this table is very well done as you try to complete the Tales of the Arabian Nights to gather jewels required in order to fight the evil genie to rescue the captive princess. The table has a couple of awesome toys on it. The most obvious is the magic lamp spinner, which when spun around enough can summon a good genie to grant a wish. Unfortunately, one of the wishes can be a jewel, negating the need to actually complete the Tales, but that's a minor gripe. Another cool feature is the genie, who can whip around the ball randomly and even pull the ball straight into the table to start multi-ball. I personally like the final battle against the genie once the 7 jewels are collected, because it winds up being an epic battle that takes place over several stages, ultimately resulting in a huge multi-ball tug-of-war for the princess. At number 10 is Creature from the Black Lagoon. The theme of this table can throw you off at first because even though the name is Creature from the Black Lagoon, the theme of this table is actually about drive-in movies in the late 1950s. There's a snack bar, teenagers making out, and my favorite, people yelling at other people to move their car. The creature makes an appearance in the film section of the game, as well as the cheesy looking hologram that appears occasionally in the middle of the playfield. I honestly can't tell if it's supposed to look as cheesy as it does in the game, but it's been a while since I played the game in real life. It took me a while to get into the game, but after many plays, I can really get into it. The reason I have it higher up on the list than I normally would is that I find it addictive and a bit challenging. At number 9 is Taxi. The theme of Taxi is pretty simple. You're a taxi driver and you try to pick up as many passengers that you can. There are 5 passengers to pick up in total. Santa Claus, Gorbachev, Dracula, Pinbach, and Lola. You'll hear them call out for a taxi, and it's your job to hit the appropriate spot or targets in order to pick them up. There's also some additional modes to spice things up a bit, and the occasional use of a ringing bell to add to the flavor of the game. The bell really grabs your attention in the game. I was thinking about putting this one at a lower spot, but the challenge in this one is just right, and it always has me coming back for more from time to time.
Quick, to the airport!
At number 8, we have Funhouse. As indicated by the name, this table is centered around a funhouse, but the main feature of this table is Rudy, the talking head situated in the upper portion of the playfield. He'll talk to you and make comments about what's going on, and his eyes will even follow the ball around the playfield. What's pretty cool though is how his attitude changes throughout the course of the game. Rudy will get angry at you for not leaving the funhouse as the clock approaches midnight, at which time he falls asleep. At this point you could shoot the ball inside his mouth for a multi-ball, and to me this is one of the most satisfying shots in pinball. Rudy aside, I like the different modes the game offers, as well as the challenge the game offers, trying to get the jackpot during multi-ball. This table offers a fun atmosphere and a decent challenge.
You don't want to go down! Ow!
At number 7 is Star Trek: The Next Generation. Any fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation will absolutely love this table. I enjoyed the show myself, but I wouldn't call myself a diehard fan, but this table really makes you feel like you're playing an episode of the TV show. The music cues are all there, and all the speech was recorded by the original actors. I really get a kick out of hearing Captain Picard announce, "All hands prepare for multi-ball," and Deanna Troi saying she's sensing an extra ball. There are plenty of enemies that make an appearance, such as the Borg, the Ferengi, Romulans, and even Q makes an appearance. Feature-wise, this table has 2 ball launchers near the flippers, which honestly can get in the way of seeing the ball sometimes, but that just might be the angle at which I'm used to playing the game. I don't normally like wide-body pinball machines, but this one is so good I have to make an exception for it.
Set coordinates for the Alpha Quadrant.
At number 6 is CIRQUS Voltaire. Now this table is a full-fledged 3-ring circus complete with a juggler, a sideshow, a high wire act, and the villainous ringmaster who you are constantly trying to defeat throughout the game. The ringmaster himself is a pretty cool feature because he will hold the ball on his head while he rises from the playfield and then throw the ball off in any random direction. There are a ton of game modes and features such as the neon ball channel, the cannon in the back box, the huge ball on the left side of the playfield, and the previously mentioned ringmaster, and the unique placement of the dot matrix display. This table takes an unorthodox approach to the playfield layout, and it's something that helps set it apart from the crowd.
Watch it.
At number 5 is Attack from Mars. This table is a fast-paced spoof of the 1950s idea of Martians and the idea of Martians attacking Earth. That being said, there's a lot of humor going on in this table, and it never stops. The main goal of the game is to destroy the invading alien saucers in several cities around the world, and then eventually attack Mars itself. The destruction of the alien saucer is represented nicely on the table, with the big saucer in the middle flashing and flailing as it's being destroyed. The table also features 4 Martians on the playfield that jump around like crazy as they attack. Overall, it's a fun, fast-paced table that always has me coming back for more.
Total annihilation! Woohoo!
At number 4, we have Twilight Zone. Now, I think most people are at least familiar with the Twilight Zone and the concept of the show as a whole. This table does an excellent job of referencing many episodes from the series and jam-packing them all into a table that's extremely fun to play. There's a lot going on here. There's battling the power with magnetic flippers. There's a gumball machine that's loaded with pinballs, included a ceramic power ball, which changes the gameplay a bit if you happen to get it. And then there's also a bizarre clock toy and a few hidden magnets, a rocket ball launcher, and 2 additional upper playfield flippers. Many shots in the game result in some reference to Twilight Zone lore, and getting multi-ball is awesome as it results in a panicking robot telling you, "Don't touch the door, don't touch the door." Very recently, I finally reached the game's final mode, Lost in the Zone, and it was well worth the effort, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. At number 3 is Monster Bash. Now, Monster Bash is basically a recycled concept taken to awesome extremes. The concept is a mix of 2 ideas, really. The first is that you're trying to get the band together, and the second is injecting that with the monsters from the Universal catalog. The goal of the game is to collect each of the 6 monsters and get them together to perform at the Monster Bash. You can even collect the monsters' instruments for bonus points if you're so inclined. There's the creature from the Black Lagoon on saxophone, Frankenstein on keyboards, the Bride of Frankenstein on vocals, the Mummy on bass, Wolfman on drums, and Dracula himself on lead guitar. The game is chock full of humor that never seems to get old, and it's worth playing just to get to the Monster Bash mode, which has its own kicking soundtrack. It's not even that difficult to get to the Monster Bash mode, but the game does offer up some more challenges for those looking for more. At number 2 is No Good Gophers. This table has really grown on me over the years. It's a golf-themed table where 2 gophers are out to sabotage your game. As can be expected, there's quite a bit of humor going on. This game can be pretty addictive, and not just that I'm trying to get the best score that I can get, but it's also seeing how many holes of golf I can complete before the game ends. This game has several features, like 2 gophers that hide under the ramps that occasionally pop up, a spinning plate near the center of the playfield, the captive ball, and the sand trap. But perhaps, best of all, is the ball launching ramp that gets lowered on occasion to allow you a chance for a hole-in-one. For me, a hole-in-one doesn't happen often, but when it does, it feels real satisfying.
Slice! Bud could shoot better than that.
And at number 1 is Medieval Madness. So now we're at the number 1 spot for Season 1, and I've got to give it to Medieval Madness. This table is very addictive and challenging with a very entertaining theme and atmosphere. There's jousting, revolting peasants, catapults, damsels in distress, trolls which pop up from the playfield, and finally the castle, which is the center of attention. The ultimate goal is to destroy the castles in several lands, and then to finally defeat the King of Pain. Attacking the castles is done brilliantly, as you've got to first lower the drawbridge, and then destroy the gate before the castle can be destroyed. Destroying a castle is always satisfying, because the castle will appear to fall apart during a pretty cool light show. The game has many modes, many of which are activated by hitting the Merlin target, and it can also be a challenge to not hit the target until just the right time, so multiple modes can be activated at once. The game possesses a real challenge, and the atmosphere is very fun. There's a reason why this pinball table is being produced again, nearly 20 years after its original run.
The catapult!
And that wraps up Season 1. Now, I do plan on working on a video for the Season 2 tables sometime in the future. I just don't know when that will be. But for now, thanks for watching. See y'all next time.